Welcome everyone to Discourse. Today we're going to be discussing Things I Never Told My Father, Growing Up Gay as a Preacher's Son by Jeffrey L. Carrier. It isn't easy growing up in the Bible Belt of East Tennessee when you start having same-sex fantasies as a child, especially when your father is a preacher who thinks that homosexuality is a sin. Moments of pleasure and the torment of guilt intersect in this memoir by Jeffrey L. Carrier. By turns romantic, heart-wrenching, and sentimental, the book is a delightful story of love, loss, and gay life in modern America. We're introduced to Jeffrey and essentially the beginning of the end, right?
Yeah.
So he thinks he's going to die. He starts feeling like a numbness or like a tingling happening on the left side.
It spreads to his arm.
Of his body. And so to me, I instantly knew it was a stroke. I was like, oh my God, he's having a stroke. That's 100% happening. And I love that he took the time to just Google it. Like, that is so nowadays.
Yeah.
Just Google it. For the book to start off this way, I was kind of shocked. I was horrified, to be honest, because his thinking was, okay, I'm obviously having a medical emergency, but if I call an ambulance, it's going to be way too expensive. And if I die, like, someone's going to be left with all that debt. And if I don't die, I'll be left with that debt.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, how about, it's just such a nice day. It's beautiful out here on the porch. It's nice and sunny. I'm just going to lay down. And if I die,
someone will find me because I'll be in the front.
Yeah, at least I'll die happy and peaceful, which actually, to be honest, like, after me being horrified by his thinking, his rationality, I kind of was with him. I was like, yeah, I mean, if you know you're going to go. Yeah, I know. I was like, that's a crazy amount of money. That's America. America's healthcare for you. But I just kind of was like, if I had to go out, I would want to be in a peaceful spot and go out the way I want to, right? Yeah. I thought that was great.
Yeah, just his mindset. It's like, man, it's such a beautiful day. This is not going to ruin it. Like, let's just enjoy the last moments.
And it actually really set the tone for the rest of the book because there's a lot of, like, humor for sure. Just humor everywhere. And I loved every second of it. But there's also, like, a lot of darker humor, which I hope, it didn't offend me because I love that kind of humor. I love, like, some of the dirty humor that's strewn across this book. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, things that go over the head of a child, but as you get older, it's like, whoa.
Yes. It's just so amazing. So this really set the tone for the rest of the book, right?
Yeah, and just the writing style. It's like sitting down with Mr. Carrier.
Yeah.
And say, okay, what are you going to tell me, this time about your childhood?
I know.
And then you get like a flashback and you see him as a kid running in the country. And
yeah, so the way he writes, it's not really chronological. It kind of bounces around a little bit, but not in a bad way to where you feel like you can't follow along. I definitely knew exactly where we were. All of it started to connect and make sense as he was telling the story, as he was meeting people and experiencing different things at different stages of his life. Yeah. It all just made so much sense, and it was told so well.
Yeah, it's like a great storyteller. As you're reading it, it's kind of like
it's like
listening to an audiobook, but it's you reading it.
Yeah, and you're sitting there, like, I don't know, I almost felt like he was there just telling me his life story, and it was fascinating. I love books like this. I love learning about people's lives, and it's not even just his life. Like, his life was made up of so many other people's lives and their experiences and things he learned from them and their stories and where he grew up, like it all came about because of other people. This book is definitely about him and his life, but I feel like it just shows how much people affect everybody's lives, like how much we all are really connected.
Influence and saved his life more than once.
Dude, this poor guy. He was really, it started off where he was about to almost die, right? So I'm not surprised, but this poor guy, throughout the entire book, there was always something. He was always getting injured or almost dying or like some crazy stuff would happen. It's just crazy. Oh, so his dad was a preacher. He was like at a Baptist church, different Baptist church. They moved around just a little bit, but he grew up in rural Tennessee. His dad was a preacher. And you know, at first, I just imagined his parents because his mom just seemed super cool and awesome and like,
And a secret smoker.
oh my God, she was like trying to hide her smoking cigarettes from everybody. I loved it so much.
What do you say? She always had like a can of...
Oh, Lysol spray, and like she hid her ashtray. It's just great. I loved it so much. Like it painted such a great picture of her, but he was just like, but she was like the most amazing woman. And you can tell, like she was so nurturing and caring and worked so hard, even though, you know, she was a preacher's wife. Like she still went to work. She had multiple different jobs. She was saving her money to help put him through college.
Yeah, and the relationship too between his mom and father was really good, right? You would think that the preacher would be very disciplined and very, oh no, you can't smoke, that's against God's will. But he accepted her for who she was.
Yeah.
And she just hid things and
from the
community because it was, oh no, preacher's wife has to maintain this status or whatever.
Yeah, but I thought they were like a perfectly well-matched couple. Like they both were so kind and everybody loved them. And yeah, like you said, his dad wasn't like super strict or put a lot of rules on her, and he just like they had such a wonderful life. I think, I mean, it was so idealistic, to be honest. A lot of the places where they lived, most of the places where they lived, were just so beautiful and like peaceful and slow paced and slow moving, but like so much was happening. Like it is so crazy.
Kids being kids.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the author had a wanderlust at such an early age. Like he would wander, like to explore. Yeah. As different ages of his life, he would be like into animals, he would be into plants, into trees, right?
Yeah, he was super into flowers and trees, which I thought was so beautiful for a child. I feel like as a child for myself, like those are the things that did make me curious.
Yeah, it makes you curious, but you kind of just see it and be like, okay, that's cute, and you leave, right? But this guy would explore, go into neighbors' houses.
Yeah, and I love...
steal some branches from the neighbors.
I loved how he was like, I can regrow this tree if I just stick a branch in the ground. That's like total kids train of thought, right? But I love that he was like such an old soul at such a young age. He befriended a lot of the older people in the community, older, you know, family members and stuff.
Kind of like every neighborhood they went to, all the older people knew him.
Yeah, he did have younger friends, but like it was more so the older people, I think, that he really connected with and was just magnetized to, right? Yeah,
because the stories they would share with him, I don't know, I enjoyed the stories too.
Yeah.
Like the lady showing on the newspaper or articles,
the
magazines.
Yeah, the magazines.
With actresses and actors, one of which he met later in his life. And just like you said, like it kind of goes in a full circle. It's crazy.
And I feel like the beginning really comes together at the end. Like it all just kind of wraps up so nice and everything.
But a lot of this, if you're like a parent, like, kids will be kids. This guy...
He wasn't a bad kid, but he was a kid.
That's where he found himself, the situation. His dad, when he was young, his dad thought that all kids should grow up around animals. So it was like a farmhouse.
And I love that.
He had a lamb, which was cute when it was little. But as it got older, we all know lambs, you know, they like to ram you and like hurt you. He ran into a hornet's nest up on the fence. And... he was getting stung and beat up by these hornets. And it just sad and funny at the same time.
Yeah, but then you're like, oh my God, he was always that way. From the very beginning of the book to that moment, I was like, wow, he was just born with like, well, it's either this or that, and I guess I choose this.
Yeah. He broke into the candy jar, started choking. He got a bubble gum, started choking.
Everything. Got hit by an accidental flying object from a lawnmower into his jaw. Like, oh my God. And then reading this also as a parent, I was just in tears most of the time. Like, laughing at some of the funny stuff. And then also, you know, it got really, really emotional too a lot of the times, especially when a lot of mention of like losing loved ones and stuff, and just reading it as a parent and him being a child and experiencing these things, it just made me super emotional.
Funny and sad moments, like when his grandma had like breast cancer. right?
Oh,
She had the
right.
surgery, and which is sad. But then she showed him and almost traumatized them.
God. So we were discussing how the women in the South, like, if they're all like this, I absolutely adore it because they are all outspoken. They are sassy. They say some crazy wild stuff and like do wild stuff. And so like his grandmother just like pulls him aside and is like, hey, look what they did to me. they took my breast from... I was just like, whoa, dude. Yeah. Even though it was probably traumatizing for him, like for me, I'm just like, that is like another level.
Oh, man. And his dad was completely fine with it. The mom was all upset.
Well, because it was his mom. So he's just like, well, that was just my mom being my mom.
Yeah. But... And it also shows the relationship, like, mother-in-laws and, you know. But yeah, and even talking to the grandma, she told him that, like, her mom was admitted to the mental hospital, and she was, like ashamed of that. And when he said that if that didn't happen or if you didn't live that life, I wouldn't be born. Right. And it goes to a lot of that similar thinking that I feel like most people have. Like, if this wasn't done, then these things wouldn't have happened. X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I agree. Like, it's unfortunate what people had to experience in their own lives, but it also led to other people's lives and other things that they experience. Yeah, and there's talk about abusive husbands for both parents. Like, their dads were horrible. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about drug and alcohol abuse. The coal miners and the rough life. The coal mine. Oh, I love that. Because this is set in the time of like the 60s. Ooh, a lot of history. Yeah, there's so much history and it's so amazing. I feel like it gave me Forrest Gump vibes mixed with like Wonder Year vibes. But real. Yeah, but real. Right? And like we have a lot of mentions of really famous people kind of coming and going and key events in history. Watergate. I mean, it is just and attending amazing. One of Martin Luther King's speeches. Yeah, his dad attended 2 of his speeches, Martin Luther King Jr. So when he becomes a teenager, you know, that's when he's coming into, I liked how he said it, he came into like his gay nature, because that's how he was born. So when he started to struggle with those fantasies and those types of things, his dad never knew about it. He never told him. Or if he did, he just kind of ignored it. But I was expecting a much different story. And I was so happy to know that he had a really good relationship with his dad. And this was more so of him coming to terms with never telling him. And also forgiving him for a lot of things, forgiving his father for a lot of things. But I saw it almost, this is just my point of view. I don't think the author, I don't know if he feels this way or this was his intention, but I felt like in a lot of ways, he understood his dad so well. He knew what type of person he was, and he loved him, and he forgave him for a lot of things, which I feel like if he had ever wanted to tell his father that he was gay, like in my mind, I feel like he would hope that his father would return the same feelings that he had for him. Like, I understand you, I love you, and I forgive you, like, sort of thing. I don't know if that's just me, like, really overthinking it, but I feel like more or less towards the end of the book, that's kind of, I don't know, that's just the feeling that I got. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and make sure to check out Things I Never Told My Father, Growing Up Gay as a Preacher's Son by Jeffrey L. Carrier.